Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I am checking my volumes for Mr. B. And my wife just told me that my voice sounds terrible this morning. And I said, well, that's okay. I'm not known for my voice. Or maybe I am known for my lack of a radio voice. Check this out. Endgame. Interest on the U.S. debt surpasses $1 trillion for the first time ever. Exploding August budget deficit to record high. Now, this story doesn't end well unless maybe you roll into a new financial system and it ends well for crypto holders.
So about a year ago, I started pounding the table because eventually the Fed is going to start easing here. That's great for gold and that's for Bitcoin. What I said is Bitcoin is growing up and will be eventually half the total market cap of gold. So that's about 350,000. So quite a ways to go from here. The super bulls, if central banks adopt it and it's part of the monetary system, then in the millions, but I don't like to talk about that too much.
What, more than 2 million? More than 3?
Yeah, like 2.9, we've got some model, which is, you have to look at the assumptions.
Right, well, yeah, there are always big ifs there. Where are you as an ETF guy with all kinds of different ETFs, everything from fixed income to, who knows, staples, consumer cyclicals, et cetera.
Yeah.
Where do you put your personal money right now?
I like longer term trends because I feel like, okay, it'll be a bumpy ride, but I like to have conviction about something that's going to happen in 5 or 10 years. To me, there's no doubt that Bitcoin is becoming adopted the way gold is. I just think it's obvious. Now, I think you have to have your own diversified portfolio, and kind of having a huge overweight to Bitcoin is a personal decision, but I just see that rising. I'll give you another example, India. The Indian economy is the best macro story. Everyone says the stocks are overvalued. I get it, but it's doubtless the Indian equities have done as well as U.S. equities over the last 10 years and will continue to do well.
Okay, it looks like somebody dropped the 4 Satoshis video underneath them. That is how you know that Bitcoin is a government psyop of some sort, because nobody in their propaganda media will cover that video. Nobody. Nobody in crypto media, for that matter, except for me and maybe 1 or 2 other people. This is good stuff from the Black Swan Capitalist. To predict the coming crypto bull run and altcoin season, follow the money and follow central banks. Allow me to explain. Global central banks are entering a synchronized easing cycle. They're telling us what's coming. What does this mean? It means central banks will increase liquidity together. Why is this so important? Because the key driver of the 4-year bull cycle is global M2 liquidity. The liquidity is what drives the markets. Please understand this. Retail does not start the bull run. Central banks and whales start the bull run. Now, if you're wondering why liquidity increases and crypto prices do not rise immediately after, that's because after liquidity increases, there's a lag effect, which means it takes time for the money to move into the markets. When you compare historical bull runs with global M2 liquidity trends, the connection is clear and undeniable. The key is to get in early and have a plan. This is why I've been accumulating, folks. This is why I've been accumulating for the last year, I guess, anyway. And I'll continue to until this thing takes off, because they're about to pump liquidity into the system. Look at Brad Garlinghouse. He actually retweeted the classic meme of himself. This is a clip from when he was on with Anthony Pompliano. He's talking about the grayscale XRP trust. Then he tweeted this. What was pleasantly surprised to see this in the news, although inevitable as well, question mark. As I've said before, with XRP having regulatory clarity in the US and other countries, I expect it's only a matter of time for this space to grow. Now, this is Donald Trump. Watch this. And Eric Trump says crypto is the future. I'm all in. So am I, Eric.
Join me live on Twitter Spaces at 8 p.m. this September 16th for the launch of World Liberty Financial. We're embracing the future with crypto and leaving the slow and outdated big banks behind.
Okay. Leaving the slow and big banks behind. Look at this. An email received by Freedom of Information Act request from Virtue Financial into the communications of Gary Gensler reveal that the SEC's Director of Trading and Markets, Hozing Zhu, through then a prospective employee, marketed himself as being in the right place on the political spectrum. He was then hired 6 months later. This email obtained by Virtue becomes the basis for the investigation launched by Jim Jordan, James Comer, and Patrick McHenry against Gary Gensler in the SEC. Sadly, this isn't surprising. I've repeatedly said that Gensler's agenda is more motivated by politics than a genuine desire to improve markets. And the results of our FOIA litigation uncovered just that. And then Cowboy Crypto, who is the official cowboy of the Digital Asset Investor channel, he said, Dr. whatever that guy's name is the same guy they just mentioned. They're referring to here in regards to Gensler's favoritism. Zhu was at MIT, and Gensler, when he was teaching blockchain in 2018, right there, MIT. All right, look at this. Latest FTX Alameda research redeems $24 million worth of Solana from staking. SolScan data shows that the wallet still has over $950 million worth of Solana locked up. The movement comes as FTX edges closer to paying back customers. See, I told you, I think I told you 12 months ago, that all of a sudden out of nowhere, in a synchronized fashion, almost as if they all just emailed around a set of talking points, they activated the conversation that somehow it was now not just Bitcoin and Ethereum, but now Solana was in the game. And I said then, these guys are trying to pump this thing to get this token increased in value so they can be paid back from FTX. And that's exactly what they've been doing. And they've had their help from their propaganda media friends, their propaganda crypto media friends. All of them have been doing it. Out of nowhere, they started pumping this thing because they all needed to be paid back. And who loses in this scenario? Retail. Who was pumping it? The usual suspects. Everybody from Scaramucci to you name it, Laura Shin, all of them. Stuart Alderati woke up pissed off. This was put out by Paul Graywall, the general counsel at Coinbase. The SEC regrets, this is from one of the lawsuits I guess they're in. The SEC regrets any confusion it may have invited by falsely and repeatedly stating that tokens themselves are securities. This is the remarkable representation in a footnote 6 of SEC's amended complaint against Binance. I hope Stuart Alderati is getting some good sleep tonight. His head's about to explode. So for those of you that don't remember, and here's Stuart Alderati. So the SEC finally admits that 1, a crypto asset security is a made-up term. 2, to prove a crypto asset security is an investment contract, the SEC needs evidence of a bundle of contracts, expectations, and understandings. I think it's time for the SEC to admit it has become a twisted pretzel of contradictions. Don't worry, I updated your logo for you. And here's my thoughts on it. This was the entire reason that John Deaton came into the case. When John Deaton tells his story, he said they were saying that the orange, the XRP in and of itself was a security. And then that's what they laid on Ripple too. And so my question is, how many millions of dollars and how much time was spent trying to disprove what the SEC already knew was a lie? And what are the repercussions for Jay Clayton, Bill Hinman, Gary Gensler, and the SEC? What are the repercussions? And here's John Deaton. He was on with CoinDesk yesterday about running against Elizabeth Warren.
And I would support legislation that ends the opaqueness. The SEC loves for the law to be vague. And we know this from the Ripple litigation that I was involved in on behalf of token holders, where we saw the emails, the intra emails of the SEC, where they were saying, hey, we want it to be vague. And I would end that and basically promote legislation that says, hey, here are some markers that you meet. If you meet these markers, it's a commodity. If you don't meet these markers, then it's going to be a securitized asset. It's a security in the SEC. And in that, and in this regulation by enforcement.
So they intentionally wanted it to be vague after they got Bitcoin and Ethereum the free pass to try to get a monopoly, then slam the door on the rest of crypto and intentionally make it vague. I remember showing videos where Nancy Wotas, who was in the room at the SEC when they got the Ethereum free pass, she said that she was acting in good faith because she was one of the good guys, in my opinion. And then after she got out, she was trying to represent her clients on other tokens. And she said she went to the SEC, and the SEC said, well, and Nancy Wotas was like, well, yeah, you guys said that a thing can be a security, and then once it becomes more decentralized, it cannot become a security. That's what the Hinman speech said. And she said the SEC told her at that point, and I think she was directing it towards Valerie Chapinick, she said they told her, well, we don't really believe that. In other words, that speech was for the purpose of exactly what we said, getting those two through the door, then slamming the door on everything else, giving them a monopoly. That is ETHgate, what I just described to you. You want to be even more pissed off? Listen to this. This is Jay Clayton on stage with Christian Carlo. This is Heath Tarber, who used to run the CFTC, I believe. He's sitting beside Pat, I can't remember the guy's last name, but I think you used to be a consensus attorney. I don't remember. Don't quote me on that. But the guy's sitting right beside Jay Clayton, and he says this.
Have this primary market. What do you think? What's the practical import for a company like Kraken?
Yeah. Oh, an angel just got its wings. Judge Torres got it right. Judge Torres got it right. There is a fundamental intellectual distinction between an investment contract and the product of that investment contract. And it's not just an academic. It's a practical one because it speaks to the risks of each of those transactions. Just as you all were saying earlier, there is a full-throated disclosure regime that applies to capital raising transactions because there are investor-like risks that come along with those transactions. But at some point, those investor-like risks give way to user-like risks. If you want to invest in Ford, the return on your investment depends on the managerial expertise of Ford Motor Corporation. If you want to buy an F-150, maybe the engine blows up. Those are different transactions. Those are different risks. And I think that Judge Torres' approach in Ripple got it absolutely right. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend, but I think.
Why would it offend Jay Clayton? Is he that personally tied up in this case? Was this thing personal for him?
Torres got it absolutely right.
Or does he just feel like an asshole
in that case?
Well, let me just jump in there because you say I don't think it did. I agree with everything you said.
Let me tell you what. If the XRP Army did nothing right at all, we at least did right making Jay Clayton and Bill Hinman, giving them the scarlet letter of a couple of assholes that they deserve to have on their jackets for the rest of their lives. We at least did that, and they deserve it.
The question is where you draw that line between at what point it is still a capital raising transaction and at what point the transaction is based on the Ford 150 going to the show, not making a 50x return on the ticket.
Yep.
Now that's a direct shot at the guys at Ripple right there.
I hear you.
But that's Beanie Babies, right? And lots of things.
So in DAI XRP, we're going to show you Americans are about to be shocked about, that attempted thing on X47. Americans are about to be shocked. And we're going to show you two videos to begin the shock that's coming. Both of these are like You know, when you start adding it all together, it forms a pretty clear picture, folks. But we can't show it out here. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Away we go.